Hello and welcome to yet another video, and in this video it is something a bit different, actually very different than usual, because in this video I'll be talking about this camera right here, which kind of got me obsessed over it a little bit. It is this little compact panoramic camera. It's called the wide Pic panoramic camera, or panorama camera rather. To be honest, it's a very fun camera to use, though it does have some, quirks here and there, which I'll be discussing later in the video. Just as usual, this video is not a full review video, it's just my thoughts, my opinion on this particular camera based on how I use it, in case you might be interested in to get this camera as well. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So the wide Pic panorama camera. Now this camera, spoiler alert, it's not actually a real panorama camera like the 180 degree kind of panoramic camera where the lens just takes the picture from one side to the other. This is just a normal 35mm compact camera where there is actually an adapter in here which you can actually mount in, and it will just kind of add that letterbox onto the 35mm frame so that it creates an illusion of a wide kind of image, albeit it's just a normal standard image with just letterbox on top and bottom. So when you do send the film over to the lab, if it's a normal lab, you might have to label the film that it's a panoramic film rather than a normal film, so that they know where to crop and where to cut, things like that. But otherwise, if you're sending it to a professional film lab, they usually will inspect the film and crop it automatically to the actual size of the format or the aspect ratio of the actual camera anyway. This camera, I first heard about it in the beginning of last month rather, so I got really obsessed with it because I really wanted to figure out how it actually works, things like that. And after using it, it is still an interesting camera, don't get me wrong, and one that I still enjoy using, albeit without the actual adapter that makes it look panorama. I just like the characteristics of the lens, and this particular camera, just like any other camera videos, I will be talking about three different categories. One is the ergonomics and usability, and then follow down into the image quality, and then into my conclusion. Let's first start with the ergonomics and the usability. The camera is actually very plastically built, if that makes sense. Like if you squish it, you do hear all the plastic sound, but it is actually well thought out. So what I really like about this camera compared to many other compact cameras that looks like this, especially the disposable one, sorry, is you do have this lens cap where it actually prevents you from pressing the shutter if it's closed. It's very simple, it's very minor, but it really does help. And like if your film hasn't been wind up, and if this is still closed, it will not allow you to actually take pictures. But when your film has been like fully winded and also the lens cap has been, opened, then it actually allows you to take the picture. And that's just the sound. And the sound of this shutter is very, very quiet and very, very fast. There. And that's something that I personally really like about this camera. It makes me use it a lot like my point and shoot, like a GR camera, for example, where I just have it holding it like this around my waist, or just kind of like aiming at certain subjects like this and just shoot. And that's actually also part of the reason why I actually don't use this as the panorama camera, because even though it is kind of meant for that experimentation and the viewfinder is like in this really wide aspect ratio, but it also makes it a fun point and shoot camera. This camera stays at f11 all the time, approximately f11, so you can be assured that most of the things are generally in focus, and the shutter speed is around 125th of a second. Or so I've read, so I'm not sure how true that is, but based on my testings, it is definitely higher than 100th, well, a bit higher than the 100th of a second. So there is that, so you can actually take some basic actions with this camera as well, so that's quite nice. The films I usually have in here are usually between ISO 200 and ISO 400, so keeping it standard. and of course with the aperture and the shutter speed and the film ISO that I usually use, or ASA that I usually use, it makes it a nice point and shoot normal daylight kind of camera. So yeah, there is that. But otherwise this camera is built pretty much basic. You don't really need an instruction manual to be able to use this camera. Just release this latch at the back and then you can just load your films in here. Obviously I have the adapter off, and yeah, once you're done you can just kind of like rewind it back with the lever up here, and then just kind of pull the lever out so that you can actually take the film out when you're done with shooting. Everything is just very simple. Here's a little lanyard that, or strap, just attached here. It's usually come with the camera anyway. So yeah, there is that. Yeah, otherwise there's not really much to talk about the build quality. It's just very plasticky everywhere, and you don't need a battery. Everything just needs to be calculated manually in your head if the light is good enough or not. Yeah, so otherwise now let's get into the image quality. It's been a very weird video to make so far because usually I have a lot more to talk about within the ergonomics and the usability. But the image quality out of this camera is, if you're just shooting without the actual adapter, and I'm going to be showing my image samples without the adapter usage, because at the end I did like this camera better with the adapter for the panoramic mode, so I ended up shooting it that way. But if you're shooting it with the adapter off, the image quality is actually quite sharp in the center, and towards the corner without the adapter you will see the vignetting. Of course this camera is made for the adapter so that when you use the adapter you don't really see the vignetting, but I think that if you're using, let's say, a black and white kind of film with really high contrast, the vignetting can actually add a lot of mood into the final result of the image. But otherwise the corners are quite soft and the center is quite decently sharp, not too sharp, just decently sharp. And the character that comes out of this particular camera, it's kind of interesting in a way, because even though it is sharp in the center, but it has that nostalgic softness from the 90s, and that is something that, you know, kind of give me this perspective of using this camera in a different way, of just, you know, not being as serious as my other film cameras like the EOS 1 for example. So I really love using the camera just for street snaps here and there, and also just to get like some interesting perspective of certain architecture here and there as well because of the lens characteristics. But otherwise the film that you put on here or inside the camera will also dictate the feel that you get from the images as well, so please keep that in mind. Do good research. But otherwise there's not much to complain. There's very little amount of chromatic aberration depending on the contrast, of course, and also depending on the subject that you're photographing. But the the color fringing is very well controlled for this type of camera. Yeah, otherwise there's not much else to say or to add into the conclusion. And this camera is definitely a camera that I would highly recommend just for fun. It's nothing serious. It is very light. It's very portable. You know, like I just have it. If you're a guy, it's very easy to just fit into your pocket, I guess, because I think girls generally have smaller pockets, especially with jeans. But for guys, this is actually very easy to slip into your pocket. But nonetheless, it is still a very small camera and very light camera to use, and one that you don't need to always remember to put in your battery, which is also very good. Everything is very nice because like there's a nice mechanical system set up in here that actually warns you whether or not the lens cap is open, because you cannot press the shutter, or if you properly rewind your film properly, things like that. So yeah, it's a very nice camera to use and very simple camera to use, and a camera that you can actually take to many places as well. Of course it is plasticky, but it's a type of plastic where it's not gonna break just because you twist it or try to squeeze it, but it is a plastic where it will take some beating. You will hear all the creaks, but it will take a little bit of beating, though I don't recommend dropping it. But yeah, otherwise I would say if you can find one for under 20 euros, just go and experiment. And if you like the panorama look, also it might be your experimentation camera as well. But if you just like if you're just like me, just like the actual kind of vignetting look out of this camera, and also the kind of nostalgic soft look from the center of the image out of this camera, then also feel free to use it like that, because you can actually take out the adapter, as I mentioned a few times already, and then just use it as a normal 35mm compact camera. So yeah, that has been it for this particular camera video. It's again not a full in-depth review, it's just my thoughts on this particular camera in case it might actually help some of you out. If you need a free photography guidebook, it's absolutely for free on my website, so as some of my photography courses as well. There are also some of the free photography courses online as well on my website, so feel free to also check that out. Otherwise, I thank you all very much for watching. If you have any questions, any suggestions, feel free to just leave them down in the comment section below. Otherwise, I thank you very much again for watching. Stay safe, have fun shooting. Till next time, bye for now.